This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, Bruchim Abam, welcome everyone. We continue in Sefer Devorah. Sorry about the absence the last 2 days, but we're going to continue now in Parak Shishi, where how a person can accustom themselves with the attribute of Gevurah, which is somewhat Midas Hadin. Now, Devorah said, any time you're ma'orer the Yetzer Harah, that is mamish ma'orer Midas Hagvura. And therefore a person has to be careful not to be ma'orer the Yetzer Harah, otherwise they end up being ma'orer Midas Hagvura. So the Devorah explained as follows: a person is created with two Yetzers, the Yetzer Tov and the Yetzer Harah. The Yetzer Tov is Chesed, the Yetzer Harah is Gevura. However, the Zohar says a very important idea: the Yetzer Tov was created for oneself, and the Yetzer Harah was created for one's wife. The reason why a person has a Yetzer Harah is for one's wife. It belongs for one's wife. In other words, one cannot employ it, use it, activate it, access it, only for the sake of their wife. Now let's explain Re'ei Kama Mesukim Devarav. See how sweet these words are. Harei ha-tiferes bal ha-chesed. Tiferes, which contains the midah of chesed, noite el hayamin, is inclined toward the right. V'chol hanhoi goisav bayamin, all of its practices are toward the right. Namely, the Yetzer HaTov, the good inclination. V'hanekeva smalas. The nekeva is toward the left. So Tiferes is, so to speak, the ish. And the nekeva is smallest. The nekeva is to the left. V'chol hanhagoiseh begvura. All the hanhagos of nekeva are midas hagvura. As we said, contrary to what people think, the ish is the midas hachesed. It has the fire of the man is the yud. Yud is chesed. The fire of the woman is hey, is midas hadin. The fire of the man is white fire. The fire of the woman is red fire. The man is Midas HaChesed, and therefore for him to use Midas Hadin, he is destroying himself. Which means if a person is Ma'orer the Yetzer Harah for themselves, let's say a person wants food, wants money, wants kavod, wants pleasure, and they're activating the Yetzer Harah for themselves, they're destroying their identity because they themselves are Midas HaChesed, and the Yetzer Harah, which is Midas Hadin, was only given to them as a tool to use for the Isha, which is Midas Hadin. So in other words, Rebbe Shalom gave a person a Yetzer Harah, which is Midas Hadin, to use for the Ezer Kenegdoi, which is Midas Hadin. But if a person uses the Yetzer Harah for their own pleasure, their own kavod, they're destroying themselves and they're destroying all the spheroids. Im kein roi shal yisoyer Yetzer Harah l'tayelas atzmai. If so, it is fitting that a person not arouse the Yetzer Harah for their own benefit. Shaharei ma'orer ha'adam ha'elyon b'gvura. Because by doing so, they arouse the supernal man in Midas HaGvura uma'abed ha'olam, and they destroy the world. Im kein, if so, kol midas, any attribute, she'ya'orer ha'adam la'atzmai, that a person arouses for themselves, l'tzad HaGvura, meaning any time a person uses Midas HaGvura for themselves, v'yetzer harah poigim ha'adam elyon, you destroy the supernal man. Now, who's the supernal man? What, there's a guy floating there upstairs called Supernal Man? He's somehow related to Superman? There's Superman and Supernal. What is that? Supernal Man are the spheroids, are the 10 spheroids. The spheroids are built in B'demus Adam. The spheroids are built in the image of man. If a person recognizes how their soul is built, they will recognize how the Shamayim is built. And therefore, if you use Midas HaGvura for yourself, then in Shamayim you're being Ma'orer Midas HaGvura, and you're going to be destroying the spheroids. Umikan yira kama maguna akas v'chol kayetz, and from here we see how disgusting anger is. Shehu magbir hagvuros hakashos, because it causes strength to Midas HaGvura. However, Amnam Yetzer Harah tzarich liyos kasher va'asar. The Yetzer Hara needs to be tied and bound. Levilti yisoirer l'shum pe'ula sheba'olam mi'pe'ulas gufay. The Yetzer Hara needs to be tied up, bound up, not to be utilized for any action from your own body. Loy lechimod biyah, not for the desire of relations. V'loy lechem das mamayin, not for the desire of money. V'loy letzad kas, not for anger. V'loy letzad kavod klala, not for seeking honor. So what should you use it for? Amnam letzarech ishtay, however, for your wife, God gave you a Yetzer Hara. Ya'oirer Yetzer, arouse the Yetzer Hara benachas, gently. Meaning, how do you know if you're using the Yetzer Hara for yourself or you're using it letzarech ishtecha? You know by the manner in which it's employed. If you're using the Yetzer Hara wildly, so to speak, then you know you're doing it for yourself. If it's level-headed and gently, then maybe you're using it for the right reasons. Then you should be ma'oyeret benachas letzad hagvura hamasukos. Then it will sweeten midas hagvura, because if you're ma'oyera the Yetzer Hara for your wife, you're using the fire of the man, which is eish levana, and it's mematek the midas hagvura. For example, kagoin lahalbisha, to clothe your wife, lasakin labayis, to give her a nice home. V'yomer, you should say, when you buy your wife nice clothing, you should say, Harei bazeh shani malbisha ani mesakin hashchina. When you buy your wife nice clothing, you should say, I am fixing the shchina. Shehi miskashetes babina. Now that doesn't mean you have to go shopping in the store with your wife. You could just give her your credit card. That's also good. But when you do, when you provide for her, that's just my personal thing. I happen to be allergic to shopping. I went to an allergist and he confirmed it. But when you provide clothing for your wife, you're masakin for the shechina. The shechina is miskashetes babina. It is adorned with bina. Shehi gevura, which encompasses the midah of gevura. The chalul kulu gevurais, which incorporates all of midas hagevura, which incorporates all of midas hagevura, and vehin mismat kois bahamoin rachamel, and it's sweetened in its abundant mercy. Lefikach, therefore, kol tikune habayis, any fixing of the house. Now, if you buy a nice chandelier because you want to invite people to your house and show off, so then you're eliciting the Yetzer Hara for yourself, and you're destroying the supernal man. But if you buy a nice chandelier because you want your wife to have a nice house, and your kavana is to be masakin the shechina, then it's a very chashav a purchase. Lefikach kol tikunei abayis him tikunei hashchina, all the fixing of the house. Now, if it's something that you want to fix, your wife doesn't want to fix it, then you're doing it for yourself. But what if your wife says you got to fix X, Y, and Z, and you could care less? You don't want to fix that. So, if you spend the money on it, you are being masakin the shechina. Shehi mismatekes, it is sweetened mitzad Yetzer Hara, from the side of the Yetzer Hara, hanivra lasos v'tzon kaino, which was created to do the will of his creator, loy zulas, and not for anything else. Lefikach, therefore, lo yechavein ha'adam b'shum hanoshel klum. One should not have focus for any particular pleasure. Ela kishe ishtay misnaes l'fanam b'dira noah. When your wife is taking pleasure in the nice house that you procured for her, yechavein l'sikunei shchina. Your kavanah should be to correct the shchina, to fix the shchina. Shehi mistakenes, which is corrected bagavurais hasmalas hatoivais, by the way of the beneficial powers of gevura from the left, shamisham ha'oisher v'ha'kavod, from which wealth and honor comes from. We say, bimina oirech yamin bimina, long life is on the right side. But gashmias oisher v'chavod is always coming from midas hagvura. We're going to hold it here in reading, but I want to share with you a few very important thoughts regarding some of the concepts that we explained. The Pardes Rimonim says in Parakeh Ois Dalet, Tiferes is the midah of the Zachar, and its nature is to turn to midas harachmim l'tzad yamin. So if a person utilizes the koyach hachimum, the heating up of his Yetzer Hara for the sake of his wife, he transforms the eish, which is midas hagvura, into an eish shel chesed. Now we mentioned the nekeva is coming from the tzad smile. We said the eish of the zachar is eish levana, the eish of the nekeva is eish aduma. We mentioned that the woman is the midas hagvura. Now the woman is the makabel. The man is the noisein, the woman is the makabel. And what the woman is doing is she's taking the raw materials of the man and she's using it to confine, so to speak, and build something into something very specific. The whole word nekeva, this is amazing. Where in the Torah do we find nekeva? Lavan says to Yaakov, Nakva scharcha alai, set the price. Nakva means to set, to establish, to confine. That's how we know nekeva is lashain midas hadin, midas hagvura. Now, the Yetzer Hara was given for a person to use, not for themselves. If a person is ma'orer, the eish of taiva for themselves, he is then destroying the elyonim. If you use it for others, he's turning midas hagvura into midas hachesed. The Zohar says, quoted in the Biur on the Torah Devorah Hakdamas U'Sha'arim, the Zohar says HaKadosh Baruch Hu created man in the arrangement of all the soidoi so'elyonim. And all the secrets of all the upper worlds are all sort of encompassed and contained in the Adam ha'elyon. In the Adam, in other words, in man is sort of a composite, and man is like a map or a microcosm of what the spheroids look like. So, all the arrangement of the Olamos ha'elyonim are mesudar in the image of man, and we call that Adam ha'elyon. Marvar Aboisai, when Yechezkel saw the Shamayim, he saw the era ala kisei kudmus Adam. He saw on the throne like the image of man. What does that refer to? That means he saw the arrangement of the spheroids, the nefesh. The Ibn Ezra writes in Parshas Truma, one who appreciates and knows the secret of his neshama and the makeup of his body, he can understand the Olam ha'elyon, because man was created in the image of the Adam ha'elyon, of the Olam ha'elyon. The Talmud Devorah says that one should be ma'orer his Yetzer Hara benachas. So it's pointed out over here, if you're ma'orer the Yetzer Hara benachas, then you could say and you could determine that the heating up of the Yetzer Hara is l'tzarech HaKedusha. But if it's done b'mehera, when with great hisoyrus, wildly, then you know it's probably for yourself. And we're going to conclude with two more thoughts. First of all, we mentioned that midas hagvura is always on the left side. The left side is what direction? We said this a number of times, the north. The north is the left, because when you're standing facing the Mizrach, the north is the left, and the south is the east. We said a number of times, Avram Avinu is haloich v'nosaya hanegba, the churban mitzafain tipas achara. That is why all Gashmias are rooted in the midas hagvura on the left. Oirech yamim bimina v'smoila oisha v'kavod. Marvar Aboisai haroitze Leha'ashir yatzbin, one who wants to become wealthy, you face a little bit to the north during Shemona Esrei. Somebody who wants to chachma, he faces a little bit to the south. What if you want both? You can't want both. When you want chachma, then God tells Shlomo, I'll give you chachma and ashirus. But somebody, you got to pick one of the two. You might as well pick one, because if you don't pick one, you don't get either, you know? And if you pick Oisher, you only get Oisher. If you pick Chachma, then you have a shot at both. The Rabbi writes in the Alei Shur, the Yetzer Hara was not given for us. The Yetzer Hara is a weapon, and it was given to us as a deposit to use for others. for your wife. You need a Yetzer Hara. If you didn't have a Yetzer Hara, you would never buy a house. You would never have children. It was given for somebody else. Achzorius was given for others, to be misachzer on Rishayim and not to give in to them according to the guidelines of halacha. Chemdas hamamain, the desire for money. Now that's a Yetzer Hara. If you don't have a desire for money, you're going to live in a hovel. But it was not given for us. It was given so that we could provide for our wife, and by providing for our wife, we're mechabe the Shechina. Kas is that if the Talmidim are not learning well enough, you show them kas panim. And of course, taiva was given for one's wife. But Rav Voba says we should view the Yetzer Hara as here's the Yetzer Hara. Hold on to it. It's a weapon. It's not for you. It doesn't belong to you. It was given to use for others. Whether it's to build your bayis, to help your children, to help your family, to help Klal Yisrael, and so on. But one person who the Yetzer Hara was not given for, it was not given for us personally. I guess we'll finish up as Hashem Monday at 5. And thank you for rejoining us today. And tell your Chaverim we're back on track. And Bez Hashem 5 o'clock Monday. Thanks for joining.
Rabbi, did the envelope come? No?
Not yet. Thank you, though.
I hope I sent it to. What's your zip code? The 11516.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.